All right, so this is the last part of our polygon exploration. We were looking at triangles, which are a type of polygon, and now we're looking at quadrilaterals, which are a type of polygon. Quadrilaterals have their own classification of different shapes, most of which you are very familiar with. But now we're going to sort of dive a little deeper into them and discuss how they are classified the way they are. So, the first quadrilateral, first off, every quadrilateral has 4 sides. Every quadrilateral is 4 sides. The word quad means 4. So every quadrilateral will have 4 sides no matter what. Another nice thing is we don't classify them by their angles and sides like we do triangles. Right now, they just are given a name. So that makes it a little bit nicer in terms of all the words you have to remember. So the first shape that we are all very familiar with is a square. And a square is a square because it has 4 sides that are the same. And it also has 4 right angles. A square is also a parallelogram. A square is also a rectangle. A square is also a rhombus. This is one of those situations where it's like we talk about how parallel lines are intersecting, but perpendicular lines are intersecting, but intersecting lines are not perpendicular. So a square is also a parallelogram, is also a rectangle, is also a rhombus, but doesn't mean the other way around. When we're looking at just the explanation of it, if you don't look at the shape and you just look, has 4 sides that are the same and has 4 right angles. Okay, well, let's look at a rectangle now. Now, a rectangle does not have the same sides, but a rectangle does have 4 right angles. That makes the rectangle not close to a square, but because it doesn't share the 4 sides that are the same length, a rectangle is not a square. It cannot be a square no matter what. Now, the other thing about a rectangle is that it has 2 sets of parallel lines. These are parallel, these are parallel, these are parallel, these are parallel. So that means that a rectangle is also a parallelogram. And a square is also a parallelogram because it also has 2 sets of parallel lines. So now, let's look at the next bit. An actual parallelogram. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's your parallelogram. Parallelogram is a rectangle that has been blown crooked by the big bad wolf. He came along to the rectangle, he blew it, he pushed it, he blew it over, and then, boop, it went sideways. It's still the same lengths, They just got pushed. It's literally like taking your markers. If I had a square like this, and I just go, there we go. Now it's sideways. Lengths didn't change. The only thing that did change was the angles. So a parallelogram, when we are describing it, has two sets of parallel lines. Which is why a rectangle is also a parallelogram and why a square is also a parallelogram, because of the parallel lines. But a parallelogram does not have any right angles. Those angles were changed. So a parallelogram is not a rectangle. There are no right angles in here. They are nothing but acute and obtuse now. So I'm going to say, not a rectangle. No right angles. Now, let's look at what happens when a square is attacked by the big bad wolf. It turns into a rhombus. Some people call it a diamond if they look at it sideways. A rhombus is just like a square that's been pushed sideways. So again, it's going to be the same equal length. So I did this one 3, so I'm going to do this one 3. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to come over 1, 2, 3. And then I connect them. So there's my rhombus. Again, that's the square that just gets pushed. And it doesn't matter the direction it goes either, as long as it's angled. Rhombus. It has all sides of the same length, just like a square does. But it does not have the right angles, which is why a rhombus is not a square. It's just like the parallelogram. Not a square. No right angles. So where a square is a parallelogram, a rectangle, and a rhombus. A rhombus is a rhombus. A rectangle is also a parallelogram. Parallelogram is just a parallelogram. Can't change them. Then we've got one more shape. You guys should know this shape pretty well. It is a trapezoid. And the main thing to know about a trapezoid is that it has only one pair, or one set, let's say one set of parallel lines. And that's its only classification. A trapezoid, a square cannot be a trapezoid. A rectangle cannot be a trapezoid. A trapezoid is its own guy. That's it. When we were looking at polygons, was a hexagon always just that hexagon shape? No. Was an octagon just that octagon shape? No. We had a letter T that was an octagon. So does a trapezoid always have to look like this? No. I could draw a trapezoid where I have like this. That's a trapezoid. As long as I have only two lines that are parallel. So one line has to be going in. Other than that, it does not matter how I draw it. So I could have a trapezoid that has nothing but acute and obtuse angles, or I could have a trapezoid that's got a couple of right angles and an obtuse and an acute angle. It's possible. But the main thing is only one set of parallel lines. The other two are going to touch at some point. This guy's going straight up, but this one's going to touch him at some point, no matter what. Boop. Okay? So that is the world of quadrilaterals.